thumbs up and ready.
He said he's ready.
Okay, great. Convene the meeting tonight. If we could do roll call, please.
McIntyre? Here. Peter?
Here.
DeCook?
Here. We do have a quorum. If everyone would kindly rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Are there any agenda deletions or corrections this evening? Seeing none, we will start with our consent agenda. All items under the consent agenda are enacted by one motion. A, I have a claims figure of $1,953,264.43. B, I have a number of fringes in the amount of $30.17. C, minutes to approve. December 2nd, 2021 closed session. December 2nd, 2021 special meeting. December 2nd, 2021 work session. December 7th, 2021 regular meeting. December 14th, 2021 closed session. December 14th, 2021 work session. D, approved new employee Joshua Willett, maintenance technician, Board of Supervisors office, effective December 22, 2021. Welcome, Josh, this week. E, approved resolution for settlement of a small claims case. F, set public hearing for approval of Chapter 8, election precincts, Warren County Code of Ordinances, 1:15 p.m., January 7th, 2022. Second hearing will be held at 9 a.m., January 11, 2022, with the third hearing reading being held at 6:05 p.m., January 18, 2022. G, set public hearing date for secondary roads facility, January 4, 2022 at 9:30 a.m. We have a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second. Roll call, please.
McIntyre?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
DeCook?
Aye, motion carries. Number 2 on our agenda tonight is consider codification of the Warren County Code of Ordinances with possible action. Good evening, Tom.
Good evening. I had hoped to have a sample to show you today, but I don't have one of the new proposed book. But I am asking tonight that the Board of Supervisors approve the codification of the Warren County Code of Ordinances for 2020.
Are there any questions? Other than the date, I don't have any 2020.
The last one was done in 2015. And because of trying to stay on with that schedule, and we've tried to include those ordinances that were approved in 2020 within that codification.
Okay. Any additional questions?
I have no questions.
Do we have a resolution or a motion?
Yes, you would approve the codification of the Warren County Code of Ordinances for 2020.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call, please.
McIntyre?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
DeCook?
Aye, motion carries.
Once again, I'd like to say thanks to everybody within the county who helped work on those ordinances. It took a team effort, and I appreciate everybody's help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving right on. Number 3, public hearing for possible road classification change from level B to level C on Tyler Street west of 58th Avenue. Do we have a motion to go into public hearing?
Make a motion to go into public hearing.
Second.
Roll call, please.
McIntyre?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
DeCook?
Aye. We are in public hearing.
So I'll start this one off. Can you guys hear me okay?
We can.
Yep.
I can.
Okay. We received a petition from the landowners to gather the appropriate signatures to convert a half-mile stretch of level B road to level C with gates. I believe the landowner might be there to speak on their behalf, but our department gathering the appropriate signatures and not seeing opposition at this time to it is in favor of this change. So we feel it's pretty cut and dry. That being said, if there's any issues in the future with any level C roads, we always have the option to bring it back to the board and simply bring it back to level B by a simple resolution.
Thank you, David. Is the property owner here tonight that would like to speak on it? If you'd come up and state your name and your address and reasoning and rationale, that'd be great, sir.
Jack Keller, 1406 East Clinton Avenue, Indianola. We, my sister and my brother and I own that property on the south side of Tyler. And then Matthew Edwards, he was going to be here tonight, but he hasn't made it yet. So he also owns it. We've been experiencing people going down, since the bridge has been closed, going down, dumping trash and throwing stuff all over, driving on Matthew Edwards' property. So we'd like to close it right up at where the rock is on both sides of the road. We've marked it on the fence post, and I believe we've shown it to the engineers, and they are in agreement to where we're going to have it. But we'd like to see the bridge back opened up once you get funds again. But in order to keep people from going down there, and Matt has tried to oversee this and keep these people, he's had a lot of confrontations with some of the people, and he would not like to get into some problems there. By the time he calls law enforcement, those people are gone.
Understood. That makes perfect sense to me. Are there any other impacted neighbors, or is it? I just saw the map. Is it just the two?
We own on the south side. Matthew owns on the north side, from each side. So we'd like to close it at both ends on each side of the bridge. Now the questions that we're going to have is, what do we have to do once that's closed? Are we having to maintain it? Will the county maintain it? What, once a year do you guys come in and kind of trim trees and that type of thing? Not sure how that works.
David, would you like to tackle that?
It'll be a very low maintenance road at that point. Obviously, if you ever have a request and want us to go out there and do some additional maintenance, please feel free to contact us. We do need to check on those roads that we at least brush clear them. We don't, if they get overgrown and we decide to open them at a future date, that could become an issue. So we do want to perform some minimal maintenance so that they do not become completely overgrown with large trees, but it's going to be a little less maintenance than we typically do on a level B road. So
Understood.
We get a key, they get a key. EMA, we hope that people don't mess with locks too much. But if it needs any maintenance over the next couple of years, I'd definitely reach out to us. We definitely don't want it to get overgrown where it becomes an issue our department
Okay.
can't tackle anymore.
Okay. Well, David, will your fence then and your gates go from our fence line over to Matthew's fence line on both ends?
It should just affect you two landowners and not go past that, which is that half-mile stretch.
Right, but I'm saying, when you put the gate across the road, and then I'm assuming it'll be some type of fence then that would tie into our fence to keep people from coming across there. Because if I've understood Matthew, he's had people crawling over on his fence, and we've even had down at the other end of Tyler where we live, we've had people cut our fence and drive on our properties when they should be on the road. So
If the request is that, we try to make the gate and then some corner posts or some sort of, I don't know. You're saying like 5-strand wire, probably want to do it on the sides of the gate, want something beefier?
okay, well, we would like to work with you then when that time comes.
Let's just work with you to make certain that we do our best that vehicles can't go around the gate and access
Okay,
that area.
that's what we'd like
We'll do
to
our
get
best,
to.
but we understand, you know, some people vandalize areas of the county that's, you know, it's
Yep,
not something we'd like to see, but in those rural areas, there's not a lot of eyes to look out for that.
yep. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, dude. So Mr. Calder, it appears as though, everyone's in agreement on here, our engineer is. I think you can work with him to make sure that you have a barrier that's sufficient to keep folks out. I might recommend to you to maybe even post a couple under surveillance signs or monitored by camera signs on the edge of the gate too, that might help deter. But it seems like there's no issues with adjacent property owners and our engineers on board. I don't see any reason why we wouldn't do it. Sorry that you've had to deal with some folks that are not respecting your property rights, but this should address it at least in the short term, and certainly the county can change that back at a later date if the bridge gets open or we need to readdress it. But for the interim time, it seems like it makes sense to me, so I'm in support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other further discussion from the board or from anyone in the public or online? Is there anyone online, Megan?
Nope.
Okay, I'll make a motion to end our public hearing.
Second.
Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. Do we have a motion for the road reclassification from B to C on Tyler Street?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
And do you guys wish to waive the second and third reading?
Yes, I'll make an amendment to waive the second and third readings.
I'll second.
Do you have any caveats to this, such as for fencing or anything?
We'll work with them to do our best to cover, you know, the road and then the side, so vehicles can't just get around the gate.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Only discussion point I'll have is I'm gonna vote for this, with the understanding that the other neighbor who's not here is also on board with it. If that's, and I,
Yeah, he signed that petition.
okay, then I'm satisfied. So motion and a second, roll call please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye.
Sure, I've got a copy of that petition if you needed to see that.
I believe you. I just wanted to make double sure, because you know, if it was me and I was adamantly against it, and I just got buffaloed tonight on something I wouldn't do that. But I believe you. I'm satisfied. All right, motion carries. Number 4 tonight is a public hearing regarding Jonathan Eady. Thank you. For consideration of rezoning application from FPC floodplain and conservation to A1 agricultural district. Do we have a motion to go into public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Roll call please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. We are in public hearing. Good evening, Lindsay.
Good evening. You see, there's a couple resolutions I'm gonna have you guys sign. Okay. So, the rezoning request is for, Jonathan Eady. It's a rezoning application submitted. He's 6914 Aubrey Court, Johnston, Iowa 50131. Owners of the property in question is Duratech Components, 2515 Dean Avenue, Des Moines, Iowa 50317. Parcel numbers of this property in question are 14000360685, located in section 36, township 76, range 24, and parcel number 310000100425, located in section 1, township 75, range 24. The proposed rezoning would allow for the rezoning of certain lands within Warren County from FPC floodplain and conservation to A1 agricultural district. Jonathan wishes to rezone approximately 12 acres from FPC to A1 for 2 residential building lots. It's actually out on
the edge of, the southern edge of Indianola. It butts up to, the city limits of Indianola. It's out on Larrabee Street, so the same road that you, that takes you around to the, road that takes you 118th Street out to the Lake Aquabi. So it comes from Highway 65, 69 over, and you'd cut through to Larrabee, and so it does butt up against the city of Indianola. We have messaged the city of Indianola. They didn't have any concerns with it going from A1, or from FPC to A1 for 2 residential building lots. The conclusion was Jonathan wishes to rezone for 2 homes on parcel that's outside, that it doesn't have any FEMA floodplain on what he's wanting to rezone. Zoning staff recommends approval. The zoning commission, the motion was by Nancy Laxton to recommend approval to the Board of Supervisors that the rezoning application be that was submitted by Jonathan Eady to rezone from FPC floodplain and conservation to A1 district, recommend approval to the supervisors, and that was seconded by Mary Jo Onimus, and there was a 5-0 vote to recommend approval to you all tonight. And so we didn't have any neighbors call, we didn't have any neighbors come in, we didn't have any correspondence at all in regards to this. So, and like I said, we did have a plat that was submitted. If you look at a retracement plat, a survey that was submitted, it does show that flood zone A and zone X, and he clearly is keeping his rezoning outside of the FEMA floodplain on it, so. I think it's a house for him, and is it?
One for my parents and one for us.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Basically a retirement area.
I was thinking it was one for his parents and one for him, so that's all I have. Don't know if there's any public here or not, besides him.
Would you like to come up and speak on it, or not?
Only if you have questions, I guess. I'm happy to, but.
What are the sizes of the 2 lots?
Just under 6 acres each. So the total land is 31 acres, and what we did is, to be floodplain conservation, you need to have 20 acres to still be able to have property on there. So we made sure to reserve the 20 acres around the floodplain, and then made the rest to be the A1 that I'm just splitting half and half with my parents.
And Lindsay, just for my benefit, I don't remember that part of the ordinance, so if part of the acreage is in floodplains, you need to have a certain amount of non-floodplain, how does that?
Go ahead.
I've done a lot of research, so.
Yeah.
You, if there was any floodplain on the land that we're trying to rezone, then I gotta deal with flood insurance, is the main concern that's on there. It still has buildable areas and everything, but I have no interest in dealing with flood insurance.
Okay.
And it's significantly enough away that it's not.
Got it. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to speak on this? This is your opportunity. Are there any questions from the board for our zoning director?
I have no questions.
I have no questions, just a comment. I do appreciate when planning and zoning is unanimous in their approach. That makes the job pretty easy. I have to see some real material reason to not follow suit. I also find it very commendable that none of the neighbors around the area have weighed in for or against it. That just bodes well for you. So, okay. Okay, do we have a motion to exit public hearing?
Make a motion to exit public hearing?
Second.
Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. Lindsay, any final thoughts from the zoning department?
Nope, I don't think so. He's definitely done his homework on this and spent a lot of time getting it figured out, so, which we appreciate too, as well.
Yeah.
And he's hired a good firm to back him up on that, so.
I'm gonna add one more plug, not just to put a feather in your cap, but for other people who might be watching, I really do appreciate that when people dot i's and cross t's before, say, you start moving dirt around and picking out where you're gonna put things too close into the right of way or wherever. I appreciate when people do it right, it makes the job much, much easier.
I'm a CPA and a home builder, so you know those two down there.
Analytical, logical guys. No, got it. Perfect. Is there any discussion, or can we have a motion for the ED property?
I'll make a motion to approve the rezoning of the ED property.
Do you want to waive second?
Oh, and waive the second and third reading.
Second.
Any discussion on the board? Seeing none, roll call please.
McIntyre?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
DeCook?
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Those get signed tonight. These, yeah, can we get them signed tonight? Yeah. Okay. These one.
Have a Merry Christmas.
You too, thank you.
All right, next on our agenda tonight, we are moving right along, we're already on number 5. Consideration of county's participation in the opioid settlement and possible action.
If I sit here and speak, can you all hear me just fine?
Yes.
Okay, very good. You may be aware that there have been nationwide settlements proposed to solve all the opioid litigation brought by the states and local political subdivisions against the 3 largest pharmaceutical distributors, McKesson, Cardinal Health, and AmerisourceBergen, and manufacturer Janssen Pharmaceuticals, which is part of Johnson & Johnson. You may also recall that I sent you a bunch of documents to look at. I hope you've had a chance to review them. One of the reasons that this is before you is the distributors will pay a maximum of $21 billion over 18 years. Johnson & Johnson would pay a maximum, J&J would pay a maximum of $5 billion over no more than 9 years. This money is going to be distributed among the states and then among the counties to be used for opioid abatement. All of the counties need to sign on and participate within the settlement so that money can come this way. Money could start to flow as early as April of 2022. Again, the reminder that that money can only be used for opioid projects to reduce opioid use and abuse. The steps that the county needs to take: you need to register to vote. You're already a registered member, and we need to choose a representative. Your designated representative will have received 2 participation agreements. I sent those agreements to you for your review. One is for the distributors group, and then one is for J&J. There were accompanying memorandum of understanding also sent to you. And all of this has to be signed by January 2nd, which is why I'm before you today. The board needs to take a vote. There is a resolution, and I can read the ending part of that resolution. The board now resolves that, and I think that would help. Get the right one up here. Could I go ahead and start that section where it says, now therefore be it resolved? Okay. Now therefore be it resolved, the County Board of Supervisors hereby approves and authorizes a representative to settle and release the county's claims against the settling defendants in exchange for the consideration set forth in the settlement agreements, the allocation MOU, and all exhibits thereto, including taking the following measures: the execution of the participation agreement to the distributor settlement agreement and any and all documents ancillary thereto, the execution of the participation agreement to the Janssen settlement agreement and any and all documents and ancillary thereto, the execution of the allocation MOU by executing the acknowledgement and agreement to be bound to memorandum of understanding. Be it further resolved, the county hereby establishes an account separate and distinct from the county's general fund. This will have to be a separate account within the county, which shall be titled LG Abatement Fund to receive the LG abatement share from this settlement agreement. Be it further resolved that all actions heretofore taken by the Board of Supervisors and other appropriate public official officers and agents of the county with respect to the matters contemplated under this resolution are hereby ratified, confirmed, and approved.
Thank you, John. I see absolutely no reason why we wouldn't partake in this. It's sort of like like a class action lawsuit, I suppose. I remember getting something in the mail from Wells Fargo like a decade ago, and I signed my name to it, and then they sent me like a check for $21.57 or something, like a few months later. But it was $21 more than I had prior to it. So do we have any idea on ballpark yet, or?
We do not.
Okay. Well, for a minimal amount of effort, I'm happy to join and release our claims for it. We don't really have an alternative. It's not like we're running a press litigation against those companies separately. So, yes, I'm good with it.
So you need to authorize a resolution, or I'm sorry, a representative.
Would anyone like to do it, or I'm happy to do it if you'd like?
I think, being a lawyer, you should do that.
Okay. I'll do it.
Thank you.
Totally agree.
Okay.
And does this money have to be, like, should we collect on this? Are we supposed to turn around and use this for further
Opioid abatement.
opioid abatement?
That's the only thing you can use it for.
Okay.
Would drug task force work?
I don't know the answer to that question, but I can find out and we can discuss that further.
Might be a nice future partial funding stream for
It might.
the drug task force. It might be.
That might be a good idea for us to have a drug task force.
And at a minimum, we will have an 8-bed jail soon, and I'm sure that there'll be a few folks that are probably at some point or another opioid dependent. So there might be some programs that we can use with those folks as well. So no harm in doing so. I'm happy to be the representative. We just need a resolution to.
I just need a motion.
Okay.
I don't want to make a motion for myself.
I will take that, let's see.
You can do a motion to approve the resolution as read, appointing Aaron,
Okay.
and appointing
That
Aaron.
you read, okay. I will make a motion to approve the resolution on opioids as read by John Bowman and appoint Supervisor Aaron Cook to be the representative.
Second.
Any discussion? When will you have forms ready for me to sign?
Soon, like tomorrow or the next, or when we come back from Christmas break. Like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday,
All right.
Thursday.
Well, just make sure that I should be able to do that between tomorrow and the 2nd, but
We'll work it out.
perfect. Okay. Motion and a second, roll call please.
McIntyre?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
DeCook?
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. Thank you for doing the research on that too. You know,
Thank you, Dawn.
that really,
Great talking
that
points.
might amount to something really meaningful, I don't know. But certainly worth a shot. Number 6 is consider easement request from Central Iowa Power Cooperative with possible action.
So Central Iowa Power Cooperative provides electrical service in the southern part of the county. They are asking for an easement across 2 parcels owned by Warren County and managed by the Warren County Conservation Board. The parcels are part of the Hickory Hills Park. Mark Wilson is here today in case you have any questions about those 2 parcels. The easements allow them to run utility lines across them, and they would have a permanent easement for construction, operation and maintenance of electrical transmission line and or system and appurtenant facilities on the said property. And there are 2 parcels, so there are 2 documents to
This
sign.
was just discussed in the last work session, wasn't it?
Yes, it is one of those we discussed then.
Perfect. Are there any questions for Craig Gold?
I will make a motion to approve the right-of-way easement agreement between Warren County and Warren County Conservation Board between Central Iowa Power Cooperative. And we don't have to wait any.
No, we don't need to wait any additional meetings.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye, motion carries. Number 7 is consider easement, public right-of-way easement, and utility easement request from City of West Des Moines and possible action.
So you may recall a while back, we approved an agreement with the City of West Des Moines regarding 3 interchanges along the Great Western Trail. This is part of that project. The city needs an easement from the county so they can build the road that goes into the development. Fox, I want to say Fox Haven, but I'm not sure that's exactly right. Fox Ridge, thank you. Again, Mark knows more about the actual construction site than I do. The easement would be for the purposes of accessing the easement area to construct, operate, and maintain a public roadway, public sidewalk, appurtenances in public and private utilities, and to allow the city and non-utility owned, or non-city utilities upon prior reasonable notice to the county to enter at any time upon, over, under, through, and across the easement area to use as much of the surface and subsurface thereof to locate, construct, replace, build, enlarge, construct, reconstruct, patrol, and repair, and to forever maintain the public roadway and utilities whenever necessary within the easement area.
Is there any county financial impact to granting the easement?
No. It's theirs to maintain. Yes.
Okay. Right. Well, I'll make a motion to approve the easement between Warren County Board of Supervisors and the,
City of West Des Moines.
yeah, and the City of West Des Moines.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion or comments? Seeing none, roll call please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
Thanks, Don.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay, next up is number 8, consider resolution regarding Iowa Process Service, LLC claims and possible action.
You just want me to read the resolution?
I can do that if you'd like me to. You may recall that we had a resolution passed earlier this year that took Iowa Process Service claims outside the usual process, which is to go through the consent agenda, because one of our supervisors was an owner of that business. That situation has changed, and we no longer need to consider those claims outside of the usual consent agenda process. So, resolution, consideration of claims from Iowa Process Service LLC, whereas the Warren County Board of Supervisors approved Resolution 21-22A to consider claims from Iowa Process Service LLC as an item separate from the claims approved in the consent agenda, and that Supervisor Darren Heater, who owned the business used by the County Attorney's Office for notice service, should abstain from voting on said claims. And whereas Supervisor Darren Heater no longer owns Iowa Process Service LLC, now be it resolved that claims from Iowa Process Service LLC may be considered in the consent agenda, and Supervisor Heater may vote to approve or deny said claims.
Okay. Did you sell it to someone else or someone?
Yeah, we sold it to, somebody that had been in the company for a long time and, wanted and desired to own their own business, just as we did many years ago, and it just made sense. She's very talented and very smart and, very driven, so it just made sense. My wife and I are trying to slow down, and, this job at the county's taken a lot more of my time than I had ever anticipated. So, it just was the right time, and, we're just happy that we don't have to worry about that anymore. It's a good kind of relief not to have a business, and it just lets me be more dedicated to the county. Which you guys probably have been seeing, you know, that, I'm just kidding. How dedicated I've been the last couple months because I don't have this business anymore. Just kidding. Nope, that's, Yep, so there's no reason, you know, it's all owned by somebody else and all ran by somebody else, so we don't have to worry about it. I was really originally very concerned about, being on, as, you know, being a part of the county and, by, you know, approving expenses for a business that we were doing, you know, just, I wanted to just be above board on that, and there's no reason to do that anymore, so,
Awesome. Well, that's why we have conflicts of interest, so.
yeah, exactly. Okay.
I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution as read.
Second?
Any discussion? I'll just comment, I'll say that I find it commendable that Supervisor Heater took that approach with something I would have a tough time voting on, something that was financially benefiting myself, you know, as well, so I appreciate the tact taken, and I'll look forward to votes on the future consent agenda items regarding our process service claims. So,
You have been really open and honest about that, so I really appreciate that.
And it makes it builds trust with the public too. It might be something very minor, and none of the claims were super substantial in my mind, but on the other hand, it's not something where you want the public to look at it and say, did you know that
Yes.
Supervisor X was actually an owner in this business? And it's easy to avoid, all the claims got approved,
That's right.
but now we can go forward under new management.
So I think it's you know, the company, really solves a lot of problems. I'm not gonna boast on the company. It does, I mean, it's really good at finding witnesses and delivering subpoenas, like more, it has, that's like its core competency. It's got a lot of databases and information within the company, a lot of people that are driving, calling up relatives. The company does a lot of things that, you know, sheriffs just don't have time to do.
Yeah.
And as we're doing this, new, debt collection and trying to figure out where these people went, that's what that company does, and I think it did fill a gap, and I think it is a financial, like, it is definitely a financial, whatever we're paying that company, which was my company, now it's not, it's paying back, but there's a return on that investment, I see that, so. I think it's a good business for the county to continue to keep doing it that way, so.
Perfect. All right, we've got a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
McIntyre?
Aye.
Heater?
Aye.
DeCook?
Aye. Feels good to get out of the 2-0 votes. I like 3-0.
I do too.
All right, number 9, discussion regarding lease for property at 2205 West 2nd Avenue, Indianola. And, what do you got presenting on that one?
I may be the presenter on this one. In the last work session, we're trying to determine the best path for the county on that property, and I volunteered to try to at least get a ballpark on the market value, and that's in the works, but I'm not there yet in anything to report to the board. I mean, we're doing some comparable sales analysis, so that, we're just trying to get a market value for the board and make a good decision on that. I'm not there, I haven't got any information yet, but it is in process, and we will shortly have that.
Super.
Just
Thank you.
not at this point in time.
Great. Appreciate the update. Number 10, budget reports.
All right, so this is gonna be a pretty quick one. This month, our expenditures have changed, but kind of the way that they lay has stayed the same. The departments that were over budget last month are similar to this month, so we're looking at the recorder, and that was some wage, employee changes that were approved. We've got that 911 tower, larger HVAC costs for maintenance, and then for general services, we have a $56,000 payment that was accrued. All 4 of those areas are 4 areas that are going to be included in an amendment.
I'm still waiting to hear back from a couple departments on some figures that I need for the amendment, and at this point, with the ARPA funds being discussed on January 4th, it might make more sense for anything in there to get included in that amendment too, that would apply to this fiscal year. So I'll kind of weigh that over after that meeting too, but, so that's kind of where we are with expenditures. And then revenues, again, a lot of these were very similar to last month. Our budgeted revenue for elections down, interest on investments are down as the balance lessens, which was expected. And then we've just got to paint some timing for the next ones, except for the Liberty Center. We are finally kind of approaching closer to where we budgeted for revenue for that. And then, you have any questions? And then finally, the fund balances. If you'll see, I think this month is the first time that overall our balance is going down, but a big chunk of that is obviously from the Justice Center. So we do kind of expect our fund balances to go down a little bit there because of that. But then also go up for ARPA. Next month, you'll see another new fund for that conservation reserve. There's nothing in there right now, so I didn't add it to our list yet, but we'll start, the conservation fees will start going into that reserve fund. Any questions? All right.
I don't have any, Megan, thank you.
I don't have any questions. Good report.
Number 11 on our agenda is receive and file reports. We have reports from general assistants, the recorder, and the weed commissioner. Do a motion to receive and file.
I'll make a motion to receive and file said reports.
Second.
Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. Number 12 is supervisors report. Someone like to go first?
All right, thank you. Various board of supervisors meetings, ARPA work group by Zoom, met with the engineer concerning the fiscal year 23 budget, compensation board meeting, ARPA webinar on sustainable water investments, and then 911 executive board budget workshop. Met with House Representative Brooke Bowden about various topics for Warren County. And performance reviews for Board of Supervisors employees. Met with Weed Commissioner concerning budget. With the Zoning Director, Board of Supervisors work session to review ARPA funds this morning, and then spoke with the engineer concerning additions to his budget. That's my report.
Thank you.
Kind of a very similar thing. We've all been through a lot of meetings the last couple weeks, but mainly personnel reviews and ARPA. And I also have met with Brooke Bowden. We had a couple work sessions. It seems like the meetings are blocked together pretty closely, so it's, but the Warren County Justice Center, there have been several meetings, operational meetings, and also there's a couple of dispute meetings that I've attended and continue to go on that hopefully will be resolved soon, but that's pretty much my report.
Thank you. Mine is pretty brief. A lot of the same work sessions, closed sessions. We did spend a pretty good chunk of time this week on performance reviews. I found those to be helpful, across the board helpful. I learned a lot in those as well, and so it's good to get sort of an open discussion with my colleagues on our individuals. I was really well pleased with them as well. We have some standout talent that are working here, and I think that it was very illuminative. So I appreciate those meetings. That'll also help at budget time too. That we're sort of under a new path with an HR director here doing full-time work. She was really pushing those, and glad that she did. I attended a SERPTA meeting, a joint SERPTA meeting. I attended a Warren County Economic Development meeting in Carlisle. That was very interesting. That's where I learned that there are a number of certified sites that are being discussed in the county, a total of 4. I have some personal experience with a former one that filled very fast and has sort of been a model to follow that has been followed throughout the state because it fills so quickly. But that's really good news for the county. Those are usually industrial in nature, sometimes commercial, which means that as far as the tax base goes, they hit hard on the tax base. So even if they're TIF'd, and I know that I can be anticipated that some or all of those might be, that's not my immediate preference, but I will let the public know, and my colleagues know, I think they already do, but a TIF district isn't quite so bad when you are a governmental entity carrying some debt. So we certainly have some debt now with the Justice Center as well as the 911 cell towers. And so we still will be claiming some, or recapturing some TIF dollars from anticipated projects. So that could bode very, very well for our tax base, which would equate to our folks paying the debt levy should in fact pay less. So that's good news. Let's hope that some of those move forward. And then today, we spent a few hours doing round 1 of county ARPA funding requests. And I just want people to know that I found that very enjoyable. I really liked it. We saw and heard some great things. There was certainly some no's and a whole lot of maybes, but we did come together as a board on most things. And we're either in agreement that it was in the maybe bucket or in the yes bucket. But I think that's pretty nice when 3 different individuals can come together and generally agree. That means that we're all sort of thinking along the same lines as far as priorities. And frankly, some of them are just slam dunk great ideas. So that was an enjoyable couple hours, and I really liked it. So more of that to come. There will be more ARPA funds. We will have to sit down as a board again to go through the ones that are maybe. Some of those will certainly need to firm up some numbers and have some additional discussion. We also have opened it to the public in April for additional applications, and so there are still funds remaining. I look forward to seeing what people request, and some of them were small and some of them were large. Just for the public's benefit, one of my favorite presentations were actually from the Historical Society. It wasn't the world's largest ask or request, but you could just sense the passion from these people, from the presenter and how they laid it out. It was incredibly thorough, and so I wanted to give them a hat tip as well. They did a very nice job, and it was a 3-0 yes vote, so people will be able to pull up very dated newspapers in this county, and I think there's a lot to learn from the past. So hopefully we won't repeat future past mistakes in the future. That's my report. And also it is the week of Christmas, and so there will be some holidays that folks will be taking in addition to it falls on the weekend. But services might be down a little bit around Friday and Monday, but it is to be expected. I wish everyone a Merry Christmas as well. Is there any public input from the public? Seeing none, our next meeting date will be January 4, 2022 at 9:30 a.m. Is that our organizational meeting?
The organizational meeting will be on Monday.
Monday the 3rd.
Okay. Well, then our next meeting date will technically be the 3rd. Our next official board meeting will be the 4th. Okay. There you go. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year's. Do we have a motion to
Take a
adjourn?
motion to adjourn.
Second?
Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
Got your Christmas card.
Thank you.